How are you all? Happy Monday. My name is Nicole Yvonne, and this is Healing on the Mat. I am so sorry that I could not make it yesterday, but it was a long weekend. But anyway, thank you for coming. If you are new, thank you for joining. If you have been here, thank you. We are going through a book called Her Rights, and as I teach my yoga classes, this week or this series is kind of based on this book. And so today we are up to Rite of Legacy. We have been through Rite of Birth, Rite of Initiation, Rite of Exile, Rite of Intuition, Creativity. I'm sure there's one more in there, but we are now up to Rite of Legacy. And I'm sorry, Intuition, that's the other one. And then now we are up to Rite of Legacy. If you have not watched those first videos, please go back and do so. It is called Her Rights, but a lot of these lessons still have a lot to do with men, and today is no different. Rite of Legacy. So we just kind of start with legacy. What is it all about? What is it meant to do, and how do we get to a healthy Rite of Legacy? So I'll read you all the beginning entry that she always provides. Legacy is the culmination of all a woman has buried and created in her life, her ancestry. It is when our names are last spoken from someone's lips. And so we find out that you can create a legacy that lives on far after you die. I think I mentioned before, my grandmother speaks to me so much now, and it's not that I hear her, although some people do say that they actually hear, the dead speak to them. But she lives on through who she was while she was alive. And I think she teaches me more now in her death than she did before. But what are you creating? What type of environment are you creating? What type of gifts, as we learned in creativity, what are you creating that's going to live on long past the time that you die? And there's this quote here. It says, in our darkest moments, we find out who we are. Therein lies the answer to the entire concept of this sacred journey. It is not about what rites of passage we survive, but rather who we become and how we mother ourselves as we pass through them. And I mentioned before that I am listening to the Celestine prophecy, and I am almost to the very end. And one of the critical lessons in there is learning how to appreciate the difficult challenges that you've been through in life, because you have not been through anything, difficult as it may be, challenging as it may be, as hard as it may be. You have not been through anything that has not been meant for your good, that has not been meant to grow you, that has not been meant to be a learning experience for you. And so the sooner that you see that, the sooner that you realize that, the sooner that you will understand people's energy, the sooner that you will get answers to the questions that you've been having throughout your life. But some of us are not even some of you all, because I am, but some of you all are not even doing the work to define the questions that need to be answered. And so here is where you have an opportunity to start doing that shadow work, start digging deeper, start finding out things about your life so that you can get the questions answered. But the Celestine prophecy lets us know that when we define the questions, every interaction, whether big or small, is a step in the direction of getting those questions answered. And so, we go through preservationists. How are you preserving your life's legacy? What is it that you want to preserve? What is it that you want to have left to your kids? I think in this section, it may not be this one directly, but she does talk about inheritance as well. And so she was left a substantial amount of money. And she understood that her family, her generations before her, gathered the money in ways that were not always what she felt was right. They were slave owners. And she understood that. So because she didn't think that that was an acceptable way in how she wanted money, and she didn't want the fight over money. She said a lot of times, even if things are clearly defined, when death happens, siblings can get mad over money. There can be fights over money. So she signed away all the money that she was supposed to get. However, they did have a lot of land, and she did keep the land, and her husband worked to provide her children land. She did not want to give them money, but she wanted to give them land, and she wanted to give them land so that they could use it for something beneficial to the community. They could start growing on the land. They could start producing farm and things on the land that would help benefit others and teach them how to continue to grow things so that they could grow themselves in healthier, fuller ways that contribute back to society, to the family, to the generation, to the legacy. And so she also talks about the legacy of great loved ones and understanding. Like if you look at your, ancestry.com and you look at the gifts that your family has been given, what are your gifts? Like she said her gift was preservation. Like her grandmother, I think she preserved fruits and stuff like that and desserts and jams and stuff like that. But throughout time, she saw that her family were different types of preservationists, and she knew that it was for her to preserve things, either in what she taught in the history or in the legacy of the family. But she knew that she was a preservationist. That's something that I'm still working on, but I do understand that I have strong women in my family. I have very strong women in my family. I have very independent women in my family. I know some of the cycles that we need to break, that I have been meant to break, but I don't know what I would consider legacy. And some of these, when we talk about this, some of it is hard to define and answer. If you don't know, my great grandmother is not my biological great grandmother. My grandmother was adopted. And so my mother knows quite a bit more than I do about the original family, but I really know very little. And so unless I went to ancestry.com, I wouldn't find out more answers. But this is legacy. What do you want your life to look like far after you're gone? What do you want it to be? And how do you want to preserve your name? And I told you all, the sooner that we can answer these questions, the better we start treating people, the more understanding and grace that we have, and the more acceptance and love that we have for ourselves, and the more we start living a life that nurtures and embodies this mindset. Even if not on an everyday basis, it is subtly there so that you are doing the work in the background, right? So that shadow work becomes healthy and whole, and even in the shadow of your mind, you are meeting and thriving at high levels. So we are going to get ready to hit the mat. Today's class is going to be very strengthening, but we are going to open up our whole entire body. We're going to do a lot of bowing. And we bow because we bow to ourselves, in honor of ourselves, in honor of the work that you're doing if you're following along, in honor of, I guess I should have started with God himself, where your power comes from. You bow down to earth and respect it and all that it's producing and providing for you when you don't know it, the energy that the earth provides, the energy that you're able to give back. You bow in reverence to human life itself, because the more we understand our energy, the more we understand how we tie into the bigger picture and how we make a way for somebody else. There are so many things to bow to. And so today we are really going to open up this body and bow down to all the things that you have to be grateful for, and to the legacy that you yourself are creating. So I hope that you have liked this series. If you didn't, or you did, leave it in the comments. I'm open, you know what I mean? But thank you all so much for following along. We'll get into some regular, next week, the rest of this week, I will try to do what I can, but I will be moving back into my home, hopefully this week. So I don't think we'll follow through any type of book. We'll just have some regular lessons. But if I drop off for a little while, that is why, because I am going to be able to breathe in my own home for a while. And I need to figure out what the space is going to look like when I get there in order for me to continue practicing. So get your blocks and join me on the mat. But thank you all for coming along on the ride. I look forward to offering you some more content and some more information and knowledge and wisdom, so that we're growing and developing and high vibrating. But until next time, y'all, keep inhaling life, exhaling death. And I will see you on, as always, the flip side. Love you.